Marcus Chen thought he'd finally found someone who could love his sons the way they deserved. 3 years of searching, 3 years of women who smiled at the boys in public but couldn't hide their discomfort in private. 3 years of dates that ended when he mentioned the word deaf. But Vanessa was different, or so he believed. 6 months into their engagement, Marcus stood in his downtown office 72 floors above Seattle, watching storm clouds gather over Elliott Bay. His phone buzzed with a text from Vanessa. "Boys are perfect angels today. Don't worry about rushing home. Take your time." He smiled. Finally, someone who got it. Someone who understood that his sons, Ethan, Oliver, and Daniel, weren't burdens to be managed. They were children who needed patience, who needed someone willing to learn their language, to see them. Marcus typed back, "Thank you, I love you." What he didn't know, what he couldn't possibly know, was that at that exact moment, 15 miles away in his Mercer Island mansion, his 3 7-year-old sons were crying in the darkness of the garden shed. Their hands pounded against the locked door, their voices, the sounds they could make but couldn't hear, echoed in the small space. And the woman who'd locked them there was checking her makeup in his bathroom mirror, rehearsing her smile for when he came home. 3 hours later, a woman named Rosa Martinez would finish scrubbing the master bathroom, walk through the garden to empty the compost, and hear something that would shatter Marcus Chen's entire world. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me take you back. Let me show you how a man who'd built a billion-dollar empire could be so completely blind to what was happening in his own home. If you're enjoying this story, hit that subscribe button and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. This story will remind you that sometimes the people closest to us are the ones we see the least clearly. Marcus Chen made his first million at 26. By 35, he'd built Chen Technologies into one of the most innovative software companies in the Pacific Northwest. By 41, Forbes had him listed as the 37th richest person in America. But all the money in the world couldn't prepare him for the call he received on a Tuesday morning 4 years ago. "Mr. Chen, there's been an accident." His wife, Jennifer, was driving the boys home from their preschool. A semi-truck ran a red light at the intersection of 405 and NE 8th. The impact was instant. Jennifer died at the scene. The boys survived, but the trauma, the violent impact, the medical intervention, the weeks in the hospital, damaged something deep in their auditory systems. Progressive sensorineural hearing loss, the doctors called it. By the time the boys turned 4, they'd lost their hearing completely. 3 deaf sons. No mother. A father who suddenly had to learn that all his money, all his success, all his strategic genius meant nothing when your children couldn't hear you say, "I love you." Marcus hired the best audiologists, the best speech therapists, the best sign language instructors money could buy. He learned ASL himself, practicing late into the night, his hands clumsy at first, then gradually more fluid. He made sure the boys had every device, every tool, every advantage. But what they needed most, what he couldn't give them, was a mother. Not just any woman. They needed someone who could love them completely, someone who wouldn't see their deafness as a limitation, someone who wouldn't treat them like they were broken. For 3 years, Marcus tried. He dated carefully, introduced women slowly, watched how they interacted with Ethan, Oliver, and Daniel. Some women tried too hard, speaking loudly, as if volume could somehow reach the boys. Others were patronizing, using baby talk with 7-year-olds who could read at a 5th grade level. Most simply couldn't handle it. The communication barrier, the extra effort, the reality that these boys would never be easy. They all left eventually. Marcus had almost given up when he met Vanessa Laurent at a charity gala in downtown Seattle. She was stunning, 34, elegant, with dark hair swept into a sophisticated updo. She worked in pharmaceutical sales, traveled internationally, spoke 3 languages. When Marcus mentioned his sons were deaf, she didn't flinch. "I had a cousin who was deaf," she said smoothly. "Growing up, I learned some sign language. It's a beautiful language." That should have been Marcus's first clue. Later, he'd realized she'd never actually signed anything in front of him, but in that moment, desperate and lonely, he wanted to believe her. Their courtship was careful. Vanessa met the boys slowly, first at a museum, then at a park, then finally at the house. She was patient with them, smiled warmly, brought small gifts. She didn't know much ASL, she admitted, but she was willing to learn. The boys were cautious. Ethan, the oldest by 3 minutes, watched her with careful eyes. Oliver, the middle child, was polite but distant. Daniel, the youngest and most sensitive, stayed close to Marcus whenever Vanessa was around. But Marcus told himself it was normal. They'd been hurt before, not just by losing their mother, but by the parade of women who'd come and gone from their lives. They needed time. 6 months into dating, Marcus proposed. Vanessa said yes immediately, crying, perfectly applied mascara, somehow staying intact, talking about how she'd always wanted to be a mother, how she couldn't wait to become a family. The boys didn't react much when Marcus told them the news, signing carefully, "Vanessa and I are getting married. She's going to live with us. She wants to be your family." Ethan signed back, "You love her?" Marcus nodded. "I do." Ethan's hands moved slowly. "She love us?" "She does." Marcus signed, believing it completely, but Ethan's face said something different, something Marcus didn't want to see. The wedding was planned for August. Vanessa moved into the mansion in March, 5 months before the ceremony. "To help the boys adjust," she said, "so we can all learn to be a family before the wedding." Marcus thought it was a beautiful idea. That was his second mistake. The Chen mansion sat on 3 acres of waterfront property on Mercer Island, 4,200 square feet of glass and steel, and carefully manicured gardens. Marcus had bought it 3 years ago, after Jennifer died, wanting to give his sons space to heal, space to grow. The house had 12 rooms, including a dedicated classroom where the boys did their homeschooling, a therapy room for their speech and language sessions, and a massive playroom filled with every educational tool Marcus could find. The backyard had a heated pool, a basketball court with special visual cue lights the boys could see, and a garden where Jennifer had once planned to plant vegetables with the boys. She never got the chance. After Vanessa moved in, she immediately began redecorating. "Making it ours," she called it. She replaced Jennifer's favorite curtains, painted over the soft yellow walls the boys loved, brought in stark modern furniture that looked expensive but felt cold. Marcus noticed but said nothing. It was her home now, too. She had a right to make it feel like hers. The boys noticed too, but they couldn't say anything. Not in a way Vanessa would understand. That was the problem with having a stepmother who never actually learned to sign. Oh, Vanessa knew a few basics. "Hello, thank you, good night." Simple phrases she'd picked up from online videos, performed with exaggerated slowness, like she was doing them a favor, but real conversation, complex ideas, emotions, she couldn't do it. And more importantly, Marcus began to realize she didn't want to. He'd come home from work and ask Vanessa how the boys were. "Perfect angels," she'd say, smiling that pageant smile. "We had such a good day." But when Marcus would go upstairs to see them, he'd find Ethan, Oliver, and Daniel sitting in separate rooms alone. No toys out, no books open, just sitting. "What did you do today?" Marcus would sign. Ethan's response was always careful. "Nothing." "Did Vanessa play with you?" "She was busy." "What was she doing?" Ethan's hands would hesitate, then phone. Marcus told himself it was an adjustment period. Vanessa was learning. The boys were testing her. It would get better, but then the incidents started. Small things at first. Daniel's favorite stuffed elephant, the one Jennifer had given him in the hospital, went missing. Vanessa said she hadn't seen it, but Marcus found it days later in the trash, buried under coffee grounds. "It must have fallen in by accident," Vanessa said. "You know how clumsy the boys can be." But the boys weren't clumsy, and they'd never throw away something they loved. Then Oliver's hearing aids, expensive, custom-fitted devices, disappeared. They eventually turned up in the pool filter, Vanessa said Oliver must have been playing near the water and dropped them, but Oliver was terrified of the pool. He hadn't gone near it since the accident. Marcus installed cameras, not because he didn't trust Vanessa, or so he told himself, but because things kept going wrong and he needed to understand why. 8 cameras. Living room, kitchen, playroom, hallways. He told Vanessa they were for security, that with his wealth it was necessary. She didn't object. What he didn't tell her was that he could access them from his phone. For the first week, he barely looked at the footage. Then, one afternoon, sitting in a board meeting, Marcus pulled up the app just to check on the boys. What he saw made his stomach turn. Vanessa was in the kitchen, scrolling through her phone. In the background, Daniel stood at the counter, hands moving in ASL. "I'm hungry. Can I have snack?" Vanessa didn't even look up. Daniel tried again, moving closer, waving to get her attention. "Please, hungry." Vanessa's head snapped up, her face twisted in annoyance. Her mouth moved. Marcus couldn't hear what she said, but he could read her lips. "Stop doing that with your hands. It's annoying." Daniel stepped back, his small face crumpling. Vanessa stood up, pointed at the stairs, her mouth forming clear words. "Go to your room." Daniel's hands signed, "But I didn't eat." Vanessa grabbed his shoulder, turned him around, pushed him toward the stairs. Marcus's hands shook so badly he almost dropped his phone. He left the meeting immediately, drove home, going 20 over the speed limit, his mind racing. When he walked through the door, Vanessa was in the living room, perfectly composed, reading a magazine. "You're home early," she said brightly. "Where are the boys?" "Upstairs doing their schoolwork. They've been perfect today." Marcus climbed the stairs 2 at a time. He found Daniel in his room, sitting on his bed, hugging his knees. "What happened?" Marcus signed. Daniel's hands trembled. "Nothing. Did Vanessa send you to your room?" Pause, then a small nod. "Why?" Daniel's hands moved slowly. "I asked for food." Marcus's chest tightened. "Did she feed you?" Daniel shook his head. Marcus went to Ethan's room next, then Oliver's. Same story. They'd been in their rooms for hours, alone, quiet, trying to be invisible. When Marcus came back downstairs, he tried to stay calm. "The boys said they didn't have lunch." Vanessa barely looked up. "They ate. They're just being dramatic." "Daniel said he asked you for food." "He's lying." Her voice was flat, casual. "You know how kids are. He's 7 years old and he's deaf. He's not lying. He can't even hear the lies people tell." Vanessa's smile tightened. "Marcus, are you really going to believe them over me?" That's when Marcus realized something terrifying. She was used to this. She was practiced. She knew exactly how to twist things, how to make him doubt what he'd seen with his own eyes. He didn't confront her further, not yet. Instead, he started watching the cameras obsessively. Rosa Martinez had worked for the Chen family for 11 years. She'd started as a housekeeper 2 years before the boys were born, back when it was just Marcus and Jennifer in a smaller house in Bellevue. She'd watched Jennifer's belly swell with triplets, helped prepare the nursery, cried with them when the boys came home from the NICU, tiny and perfect. She was there the day of the accident. She'd been at the house preparing dinner when Marcus called with the news. She'd dropped the knife she was holding, felt her knees give out, prayed in Spanish until the words stopped making sense. She'd gone to the hospital every day, sat with Marcus in the waiting room, held those boys when they finally came home, their small heads bandaged, their eyes confused and frightened. And when the doctors confirmed the hearing loss, Rosa had done something the others hadn't. She enrolled in ASL classes, not because Marcus asked her to, not because it was her job, but because those boys were her boys too, because she'd held them when they were hours old, and she'd be damned if she couldn't talk to them now. At 63 years old, Rosa learned a new language. Her hands were stiff from years of cleaning, her memory not what it used to be. But she practiced every single day, watched videos on YouTube, met with a tutor from the community college, practiced signing with the boys until her fingers ached. Now, 4 years later, Rosa was fluent. She was the only person in that house, besides Marcus, who could have real conversations with Ethan, Oliver, and Daniel. And she'd been watching Vanessa Laurent very, very carefully. Rosa had been there when Vanessa moved in, had seen the way she smiled at Marcus, and the way that smile died the second he left the room. She'd seen Vanessa shove Daniel's stuffed elephant into the trash. She'd seen her throw Oliver's hearing aids into the pool. She'd seen her lock the boys in their rooms without dinner, and she'd kept quiet, because who would believe the housekeeper over the beautiful fiancée? But everything changed on a Thursday afternoon in late June. Marcus was in San Francisco for meetings. He'd be gone overnight back Friday morning. Rosa was scheduled to clean the master wing that day, the bedrooms, the bathrooms, Marcus's office. Vanessa was supposed to be watching the boys. Rosa was upstairs, scrubbing the bathroom tile, when she heard the front door slam. She walked to the window, looked down at the driveway. Vanessa's Mercedes was gone. Rosa's heart started pounding. She dried her hands and went downstairs, moving quickly through the house. "Ethan, Oliver, Daniel." She called their names even though she knew they couldn't hear. The playroom was empty. The kitchen was empty. Their bedrooms were empty. Rosa's hands were shaking now. She pulled out her phone, almost called Marcus, then stopped. Think, where would they be? She checked every room. Nothing. Then she heard it. Faint, so faint she almost missed it. A sound, not crying. The boys couldn't cry normally, couldn't hear themselves make the sounds, but a rhythmic pounding, like fists against wood. Rosa followed the sound through the kitchen, out the back door, across the patio, the garden shed, the old wooden structure at the edge of the property, where Marcus stored pool equipment and lawn tools. The door had a heavy padlock. It was locked. The pounding was coming from inside. Rosa's stomach dropped. Oh God, no. Her hands fumbled for her keys. She had a copy of every lock in the house. Marcus had given them to her years ago for emergencies. She found the right key, her hand shaking so hard she could barely get it in the lock. When the door opened, the afternoon light flooded in. 3 small boys sat huddled in the corner. 3 small boys sat huddled in the corner of the shed, arms wrapped around each other. Their faces were streaked with tears and dirt. Their hands were scraped from pounding on the door. Ethan had his arms around both his brothers, protecting them the way he always did. Oliver's face was buried against Ethan's shoulder. Daniel was shaking. The shed was sweltering. Seattle was having an unusual heat wave. Temperatures in the high 80s, and the wooden structure had no ventilation. The boys' shirts were soaked with sweat. When the light flooded in, all 3 boys looked up, their eyes wide with terror. Then they saw Rosa. Daniel's face crumpled. His hands flew up in frantic signs. Rosa, she locked us! She locked us! Rosa fell to her knees, her chest heaving with sobs she tried to hold back. She opened her arms, and all 3 boys rushed into them, clinging to her like she was the only solid thing in a world that kept trying to drown them. "I'm here," Rosa signed with one hand while holding them with the other. "You're safe. I've got you." Ethan's hands were trembling as he signed. "She said we were bad. She said we were too much trouble." "How long?" Rosa signed. "How long have you been in here?" Oliver held up his fingers. 3 hours. Maybe more. We don't know. Rosa's vision blurred with rage and grief. 3 hours, in the heat, in the dark, 3 7-year-old boys locked in a shed like animals. She pulled back to look at their faces, checking each one carefully. "Are you hurt? Did she hurt you?" Ethan shook his head, but his hands said something different. She pushed Daniel. He fell. Rosa looked at Daniel. He had a bruise forming on his elbow, dirt on his knees. He lifted his shirt slightly. A purple-red mark spread across his side where he'd hit something when he fell. Rosa's hands shook as she signed, "We're going inside. We're getting ice. Then we're calling your father. Will he believe us?" Oliver's hands were small, uncertain. "She always says we're lying." Rosa cupped Oliver's face in her hands, looked directly into his eyes. "I believe you. And your father will too, I promise." She led them out of the shed, across the lawn, into the house. The kitchen felt cool after the heat. Rosa sat them at the table, got ice packs from the freezer, wrapped them in towels. Her hands were still shaking as she pulled out her phone. She didn't call Marcus first. She took pictures. Every bruise, every scrape, every tear-stained face. She photographed the locked shed, the padlock, the small handprints on the inside of the door where they'd pounded. Evidence. She needed evidence because she knew women like Vanessa. Beautiful, polished women who knew exactly how to twist the truth. Then she called Marcus. He answered on the second ring. "Rosa, is everything okay?" Rosa's voice cracked. "Mr. Chen, you need to come home, right now." "What happened? Are the boys hurt?" "They're safe now, but sir—" Her voice broke completely. "She locked them in the shed. For 3 hours, in the heat. She locked your sons in a shed and left them there." The line went silent for so long Rosa thought the call had dropped. Then Marcus's voice came back, low and dangerous in a way Rosa had never heard before. "Where is she?" "Gone. She left. Her car is gone." "Stay with the boys. Don't let them out of your sight. I'm getting on a plane right now. I'll be there in 2 hours." "Mr. Chen." "Rosa." His voice was shaking. Thank you for finding them." Rosa looked at the 3 boys sitting at her kitchen table, small and exhausted and traumatized. "I love them too, sir. These are my boys too." Marcus Chen sat in the back of an Uber going 90 miles an hour from SeaTac Airport to Mercer Island, his hands gripping his phone so tightly the screen protector cracked. He'd left San Francisco the moment Rosa called, didn't even grab his luggage, just ran to the airport and paid $12,000 for a private charter because he couldn't wait for a commercial flight. His sons, locked in a shed, by the woman he was going to marry. Marcus opened his phone, pulled up the security camera app with shaking hands. He rewound the footage to earlier that afternoon, started watching. 1:47 p.m. Vanessa in the kitchen, on her phone. The boys came in, Ethan signing something to her. She didn't even look up. Ethan tried again, waving to get her attention. Vanessa's head snapped up. Her mouth moved. "What?" Ethan signed again. Marcus could read his son's hands clearly. "Can we go outside to play?" Vanessa stood up, her face twisted with annoyance. She grabbed Ethan's wrist, yanked him toward the back door. Oliver and Daniel followed, confused and frightened. 1:52 p.m. Exterior camera. Vanessa marching across the lawn, dragging Ethan. She opened the shed door, shoved Ethan inside. Daniel's hands moved frantically. "What did we do? We're sorry." Vanessa shoved him in too, then Oliver. She pulled out a padlock, locked the door while they pounded from inside. Then she walked back to the house like nothing had happened. 2:03 p.m. Vanessa in the master bedroom, changing clothes, designer jeans, expensive blouse, touching up her makeup. 2:15 p.m. Vanessa getting into her Mercedes, driving away. The boys were in that shed for 3 hours and 14 minutes before Rosa found them. Marcus watched his fiancée lock his children in a shed and drive away while they suffered in the heat and darkness. Then he went back further in the footage. Days, weeks, how long had this been happening? He found it all. Vanessa shoving Daniel down the stairs. Daniel tumbling down 4 steps, landing hard, crying silently because he couldn't hear himself. Vanessa dumping Oliver's dinner in the trash because he'd spilled juice. Oliver sitting at the table crying while she walked away. Vanessa grabbing Ethan's hands when he tried to sign to her, holding his wrists so he couldn't communicate. Ethan's face twisted in pain and frustration. Hours of footage, months of cruelty. All while she texted Marcus, "Boys are perfect angels, don't worry." Marcus was going to be sick. The Uber pulled into his driveway at 6:47 p.m. Marcus threw money at the driver and ran to the house. Rosa opened the door before he could reach it. Her face was streaked with tears. "Where are they?" "Kitchen table. They won't leave my side." Marcus ran past her. His 3 sons sat huddled together at the kitchen table. When they saw Marcus, all 3 jumped up and ran to him. He fell to his knees and caught them, wrapped his arms around all 3, held them so tightly he was afraid he might hurt them, but he couldn't let go. "I'm sorry," Marcus signed when he could finally pull back to look at them. I'm so sorry. I should have known. I should have protected you. Did you know? Marcus signed. Did you try to tell me? All three boys nodded slowly. Marcus's chest cracked open. How? Show me how you tried to tell me. Ethan's hands moved carefully. I signed to you that she was mean. You said, give her time. Oliver, I told you I was hungry. You said Vanessa would feed us. Daniel, I showed you my bruises. You asked if I fell playing. They had been telling him, they'd been screaming for help, and he'd been too blind to see the truth. I believe you now, Marcus signed, tears streaming down his face. I see you now, and she will never touch you again, I promise. Rosa handed him her phone. Pictures, the shed, the lock, the handprints, close-ups of bruises, scrapes. I documented everything, Rosa said. Marcus looked at this woman who'd loved his sons when their own stepmother-to-be had tortured them. Rosa, you saved them. I love them, Rosa said simply. They are my boys too. As if summoned by the rage in his voice, they heard it. The sound of a car pulling into the driveway. Vanessa was home. The boys felt the vibration of the car door slamming, saw the lights flash across the kitchen window. All three of them froze. Daniel grabbed Marcus's leg. Oliver's hands moved frantically. She's back. She's back. Marcus turned to Rosa. Take them upstairs. Lock the door. Don't open it for anyone but me. Rosa nodded and took the boy's hands. But Ethan pulled away, looked back at his father. Don't let her hurt you. Marcus knelt down. I won't, I promise. Go with Rosa. You're safe now. Then he heard the front door open. Marcus, are you home? Vanessa's voice was bright, cheerful. I saw your car. I thought you weren't back until tomorrow. She walked into the kitchen, shopping bags in her hands, smile on her face. Then she saw Marcus's face and the smile faltered. What's wrong? Marcus stood completely still. Where were you today? I went shopping. Why? Is something... Where were my sons? The air in the kitchen went cold. They were here. They're fine. What's this about? They were locked in the shed for 3 hours. Silence. Vanessa's face went through several expressions. Surprise, confusion, then carefully calibrated concern. What? No, that's... Marcus, I don't know what they told you, but they didn't tell me anything. Marcus pulled out his phone, turned the screen toward her. I watched you do it. He pressed play. The footage showed everything. Vanessa dragging Ethan across the lawn, shoving all three boys into the shed, locking the door, walking away. The color drained from Vanessa's face. Marcus, I can explain how you locked 3 7-year-old boys in a shed in 90-degree heat for over 3 hours while you went shopping. They were misbehaving. They needed discipline. They're deaf children who lost their mother. They're manipulative. Vanessa's mask was cracking. They pretend they don't understand me. They ignore me on purpose. Because you abuse them. Marcus played more footage. Vanessa pushing Daniel down the stairs, throwing away Oliver's food, grabbing Ethan's hands to stop him from signing. They make everything difficult, she said, her voice flat now. Do you know what it's like trying to communicate with them? They just stare at you, making those weird sounds. Those sounds are all they have because they can't hear themselves. You told me you knew sign language. You told me you had a deaf cousin. Was any of that true? Vanessa laughed bitterly. Of course it wasn't true. I needed you to marry me, Marcus. Do you know how much money you have? There it was, the truth, naked and ugly. I tried in the beginning, but there's so much work. The signing, the special needs, the way everyone stares when we go out. It's exhausting. And you're never here, always working, leaving me alone with them. So you locked them in a shed. I needed a break. I needed peace without their hands waving in my face, without those sounds. Then you should have left instead of torturing children. I love you, Vanessa said desperately. We can work through this. I'll do better. You pushed my son down the stairs. It was an accident. I watched you do it, deliberately. How long? Marcus asked quietly. The whole time? They made it impossible to love them, Vanessa. whispered. "They're children, 7 years old. They've lost their mother, lost their hearing, lost everything, and you were supposed to help them heal, and instead you gave them new wounds." "I'm sorry, Marcus, please, get out of my house. Marcus, you can't. I have 3 hours of footage of you torturing my children. I have photographs of their injuries. I have a witness. If you don't leave right now, I'm calling the police." Vanessa's face twisted. "You'd choose them over me? 3 damaged kids who can't even hear you." Marcus moved forward, his voice lethal. "Those damaged kids are worth 1,000 of you. They are brave and beautiful, and they've survived more pain than you could imagine. Yes, they can't hear me say I love them, but they can see it in my hands, in my eyes, in everything I do. That's more real than anything you've ever offered." He pointed at the door. "You have 10 minutes to pack and leave. If you're still here after that, I'm calling the police." Something in Marcus's eyes convinced her. Vanessa turned and ran upstairs. Marcus stood in the kitchen shaking, listening to her throw things into suitcases. 9 minutes later, she came down with 2 bags. She stopped at the door. "You'll regret this. When you're alone again, when you realize no one else will want a man with 3 deaf kids. I'd rather be alone with my sons than spend one more second with someone who hurt them." Vanessa yanked off the ring, threw it at him. It bounced off his chest and skittered across the floor. "I hope they ruin your life the way they ruined this relationship," she spat. Then she was gone. Marcus picked up the ring, walked to the trash can, dropped it in. Then he went upstairs to find his sons. Marcus found them in Ethan's room, all 3 boys curled up with Rosa on the bed. When Marcus opened the door, 3 pairs of eyes looked up at him. "Is she gone?" Ethan signed. "She's gone forever. She's never coming back." Daniel's hands moved hesitantly. "You're not mad at us?" Marcus crossed the room, knelt in front of the bed. "I am not mad at you. I could never be mad at you. What she did was not your fault. None of this was your fault." Oliver's hands shook. "We tried to be good. We tried so hard. You are good. You are the best boys in the world. She was the problem, not you, never you." He pulled all 3 into his arms, held them while they cried, silent, shaking sobs that broke his heart. Rosa stood to give them space, but Marcus reached out and grabbed her hand. "Stay, please." Eventually, the crying stopped. "Are you hungry?" Marcus signed. All 3 nodded. In the kitchen, Rosa started making dinner while Marcus helped. The boys sat at the table watching, still not quite believing it was over. "I need to tell you something important," Marcus signed. 3 pairs of eyes focused on him. "I'm sorry I didn't see what was happening. You tried to tell me and I didn't listen. I was so desperate to give you a mother that I didn't see she was hurting you." "You were lonely," Ethan signed. "We know that's not an excuse. You are more important than my loneliness. You will always be more important." "What happens now?" Oliver signed. "Now we heal, together. No more strangers, no more people who don't love you, just us. And Rosa, if she wants to stay." Rosa looked up from the stove, tears streaming. She signed, "I want to stay. I will always stay. Would you like that?" Marcus signed to the boys. "Would you like Rosa to stay with us, to be part of our family?" The boys looked at each other. Then Ethan signed, "She already is family. She learned our language. She sees us." Oliver, "She saved us." Daniel, "Can she live here, not just work here?" Marcus looked at Rosa. "Rosa, would you consider moving into the guest house? Being here full-time, not as a housekeeper anymore, but as family?" Rosa walked over to the table, knelt down eye level with the boys. She signed slowly, clearly, "I have loved you since you were babies. I held you when you came home from the hospital. I learned your language because I needed to talk to you. You are my boys. If you want me here, I will never leave." 3 boys nodded, smiling for the first time in months. "But you have to promise me something," Rosa signed. "If anyone ever hurts you again, anyone, you tell me immediately. No more keeping secrets. Promise?" All 3 boys signed. "We promise." That night, Marcus tucked his sons into their beds one by one. He sat on Ethan's bed first. Are you scared? Ethan thought for a moment. A little, but less than before. We're going to find someone for you to talk to, someone who knows sign language and understands what you've been through, a therapist if you want one. Ethan nodded. I think I need one. You're very brave. I had to be. For Oliver and Daniel. Someone had to protect them. Marcus's eyes burned. You're 7 years old. That should never have been your job. From now on, I protect you. You get to just be a kid. In Oliver's room, Oliver was already crying. What's wrong? Marcus signed, alarmed. I'm not sad. I'm happy. She's gone. She's really gone. Marcus held Oliver while he cried relief tears. In Daniel's room, the youngest was clutching the stuffed elephant Rosa had rescued from the trash. Rosa found him. She fixed him. She fixes a lot of things, Marcus signed. Will you fix things too? I'll try. I made mistakes, big ones, but I'm going to do better. Daniel signed, I love you, Daddy. Marcus's vision blurred. He pulled Daniel close and signed against his son's back. I love you too, so much, forever. Morning light filtered through the kitchen windows. Marcus stood at the stove flipping pancakes while Rosa schmurse at the table. It was Saturday, family breakfast day. The boys thundered down the stairs and burst into the kitchen. Pancakes, Daniel signed enthusiastically. With chocolate chips? Oliver signed hopefully. Only if you help set the table, Marcus signed back with a smile. 6 months since that terrible day. 6 months of healing. The first month had been the worst. Nightmares every night. The boys flinching whenever someone moved too quickly. But they'd done the work. Dr. Sarah Kimura, a deaf psychologist who specialized in childhood trauma, came 3 times a week. She worked with each boy individually, then together, then included Marcus and Rosa in family sessions. Marcus learned that his own grief over Jennifer's death had never been properly addressed, that he'd been running from his pain for 4 years, and in doing so, he'd left his sons to navigate their own grief alone. The boys learned that what happened wasn't their fault, that being deaf wasn't a burden, that their needs weren't too much, that they deserved to be loved exactly as they were. Slowly, painfully, they healed. 2 months in, Daniel finally went back into the garden. He stood in front of the shed for a long time. Then he picked up a rock and threw it at the door, hard. Then another, and another. Rosa put a hand on Marcus's arm. Let him, he needs this. When Daniel came back inside, he signed, Can we tear it down, the shed? I don't want it there anymore. Yes. Do you want to help? That weekend, all 5 of them tore down the shed. The boys swung child-sized hammers, pulled out nails, kicked at boards. By Sunday evening, the shed was gone. What should we put here instead? Marcus signed. Ethan signed, a garden, for Mom, so they planted one. Roses and lavender and daisies, Jennifer's favorite flowers. The garden became their healing place. 3 months in, Oliver had his breakthrough with Dr. Kimura. It's okay to be angry, Dr. Kimura signed. Your anger is important. But if I'm angry, people leave, Oliver signed, tears streaming. Who left when you were angry? Mom, I was crying in the car when the accident happened. Maybe if I'd been quiet. And there it was, the lie Oliver had been carrying for 4 years. Dr. Kimura worked with him for weeks, helping him understand the accident wasn't his fault. When Oliver finally let himself get angry, really angry, he screamed, threw pillows, kicked the couch, cried until he was exhausted, and when he was done, Marcus and Rosa and his brothers were still there. We didn't leave, Marcus signed. We'll never leave. 4 months in, Ethan's burden started to lift. I'm tired of being the responsible one, he signed to Dr. Kimura. I'm tired of protecting everyone. You're 7 years old, Dr. Kimura signed back. You shouldn't have to protect anyone. Marcus cut back his work schedule even more, started being home for breakfast every morning, dinner every night, played with them, laughed with them. Slowly, Ethan's face softened. He started playing again instead of supervising, started asking for help instead of doing everything alone. Now, at 6 months, they were different people, not healed completely. Trauma doesn't work that way, but healing. As they ate breakfast, Marcus signed, "Rosa is officially moving into the guest house today, all her things. She's here permanently." The boys erupted in excitement. "Does this mean you're really staying forever?" Daniel signed to Rosa. "Forever and ever. You're stuck with me now." "Good," all three boys signed simultaneously. That afternoon in the garden, Ethan's hands moved. "Dad, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Are you going to try to find another wife?" Marcus looked at his three sons. "Do you want me to?" All three shook their heads. "We like it just us," Oliver signed. "You, me, Ethan, Daniel, and Rosa. We're a family. We don't need anyone else," Daniel added. "Someday maybe I'll want to fall in love again," Marcus signed. "But only with someone who loves you as much as I do. Someone who learns your language and sees how amazing you are." "Like Rosa," Ethan signed. "Exactly like Rosa. And if I never find someone like that, I'll be perfectly happy with the family I have right now. You three are enough. More than enough. You're everything." "We love you," Daniel signed. "I love you too. So much it doesn't fit in words or signs." That evening, Marcus gathered everyone in the living room. He pulled out 4 small boxes, set them on the coffee table. The boys each opened a box. Inside was a pendant on a chain, a simple silver circle with something engraved. Ethan's said, "Forever Family, Ethan." Oliver's, "Forever Family, Oliver." Daniel's, "Forever Family, Daniel." Marcus showed his own, "Forever Family, Marcus." Then he handed the last box to Rosa, "Forever Family, Rosa." "These are promise pendants," Marcus said, and signed. "They're a promise that we are a family, not because of blood, but because we choose each other every single day." He knelt in front of the boys. "I'm promising you that I will never bring someone into our lives who doesn't love you completely. I'm promising that I will always listen. I'm promising that you are my priority, always." He turned to Rosa. "And I'm promising you that you are family, my son's abuela, the person who saved us when we were drowning." Rosa signed through tears. "I promise to love these boys until my last breath, to protect them, to see them, to be their safe place." "What do we promise?" Ethan signed. "We promise to tell you when we're scared or hurt. We promise to trust you. We promise to be a family," Ethan signed. "Even when it's hard, especially when it's hard." They put on their pendants and Marcus took a picture. 5 people wearing matching necklaces, 5 people who'd chosen each other, 5 people who'd become a family through fire and pain and the decision to love anyway. Later that night, Marcus and Rosa sat on the back patio. "Do you think they'll be okay?" Marcus asked quietly. "I think they'll carry scars," Rosa said honestly. "But scars mean you survived. And these boys, they're survivors. I used to think I didn't deserve them after I failed them so badly. And now I think they're teaching me what unconditional love means. They forgave me before I even asked. They trust me again. They love me even though I'm learning as I go. That's what children do. They love us through our learning." Inside, through the window, they could see the boys' bedroom lights were off. 3 children sleeping peacefully. Marcus looked up at the stars, thinking about Jennifer. "I hope you'd be proud. I know I failed them for a while, but I'm trying now, and Rosa, you'd love her." A warm breeze picked up, and Marcus chose to believe it was Jennifer's way of saying she approved. The garden bloomed in the darkness, the house breathed easy, and 5 hearts that had been shattered learned what it meant to be whole. Not perfect, just loved. And that was everything. If this story touched your heart, please subscribe and hit the like button. Share it with someone who needs to be reminded that families aren't always born. Sometimes they're chosen. And the strongest families are the ones built from broken pieces and unconditional love. See you in the next story.